From the beginning of my time on this planet, I have known and loved comic books from my first memories till now. Hi, it's holiday, everyone. This last week we lost somebody, a legend in the comic book industry, somebody who did just not only extraordinary work, but just work that was like, I can't believe how hard George Perez worked in the comic book industry. Like, he put so much effort into his art. I'll just say this, like one of the things he did was he would do 3.5 comic books in 1 month. And he was able to draw that fast and that good within that short amount of time. That's like 3 pages a day, almost more. It's unspeakable how hard you would have to work to be able to do that. He was doing like 3 a day. That's just crazy to me. But, you know, that's how talented he was. And that speaks to the volume he was able to work at to produce his beautiful art and how talented he was. So, you know, I didn't know George personally. People have always said that he was the sweetest guy, the kindest guy that anyone could ever meet at a Comic-Con. He looks like that type of guy. I mean, he literally looks like a fantastic human being. And I wish I could have met him. Cancer's a bitch. But there's one thing else we need to talk about. And the reason why I said, you know, I've known comics my whole life, and they've always been my favorite thing. And when I turned 30 years old, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I finally figured it out, and that's that I wanted to do comic books. But it all started with, you know, your first comic book. Where did you pick it up at? Who did it? Who wrote it? Who drew it? Who inked it? Who colored it? George Perez drew the first comic book that I read, which was Fantastic Four 184? Yeah, 184. There's a couple of things we should say about this before we get into it. And that's that, to be clear, 100% clear with you. When I was growing up, my dad had this brown, like, bowling ball bag. It was ugly, like, brownish orange. I'll insert a picture right here just to kind of show you what I mean by that. In that bag was all of his comic books that he had as a kid that he would later on give to me, almost as like an inheritance. It's pretty much the only thing he gave me. And, you know, I had the option to go through and read whatever one I wanted. And of course, you know, there was a lot of good ones in there, which I'll get to at some point. But this is the first one I remember going towards. And it was George Perez's art that got me there. It was his art that when I first saw it, I was like, I want to read that one first. And that's why we're going to discuss this today. We're going to go through the whole issue, and I'm going to try and point out, you know, the pros of what I think made George's art so interesting, and like how the audacity he had and the bravery to do certain things that, you know, not a lot of other creators would, you know, do. Like, they would be lazy compared to George. So let's get into it. In remembrance of George Perez. Rest in peace. All right, everyone, really quickly, let's go through this issue. So first off, on the cover here is the Eliminator. But to me, he was kind of like a cross between Terminator, a little bit of Jason Voorhees, and a dildo. And I mean, when you look at him, I mean, am I wrong? I'm not making fun of this character design. I actually love this character. I wish this was like a main Fantastic Four baddie in terms of, you know, what's going on here. But just even on the cover here, I mean, look how much freaking detail is thrown into this. The shade coming over like a lantern was knocked by his hand out of the way up here. The debris, characters falling off of a bad guy. It's classic superhero comic book stuff, and then just having to throw in a staircase for no reason. Staircases aren't easy to draw. And then a roof here, different dimensions, this background in perspective coming out. Look at that. I can't even draw it straight with my finger, and it's right in front of me. And then on the floor here, just the whole thing, showing the scope, the actual size of the character. It's pretty freaking sweet. Stuff has happened. Mr. Fantastic sent his negative Reed Richards, or his evil Reed Richards, in the negative zone. These two have a crush on the Thing, even though he's with Alicia. Classic Johnny is always, trying to calm him down or fight with him, one or the other. All right, so let's get into George's art. Was there anything to say here? There's a lot of detail going on in the back here. It's pretty nuts. And in the foreground. I forget who made fun of George, but they were doing it in a funny way. They were saying something like, a nice way. They were saying like, George's characters never stand still. They're always flailing their arms and yelling, and he's always doing over dramatic stuff. And the other thing they always brought up is he's always doing top-down perspectives. Always. Like, never not a top-down perspective. Using different perspectives in one scene. Look at that. That would take me forever to figure out. And doing top-down, look how bold he is in just doing it so often. Look at all the destruction, like again, great detail. And it's beautiful storytelling already. You know what's going on here in 2 pages. Look at this. So they take off, they argue, he's into me more, no, he's into me, whatever. Thing's into Alicia. Another top-down look at the city. Immediately, this is just beautiful to me. This panel, some of these panels I've known for my whole life. They'll stick with me forever. This is just great. You wouldn't see this in a comic book today because this is just too much to figure out. George literally made a roadmap. He made a roadmap of a city right here. He drew a part of a city. Anyway, I digress. He gets eliminated. Johnny gets eliminated. Target 1 eliminated. Cool shot of the scope, of course. More insane amount of detail he doesn't have to draw. He really didn't have... He could have drawn like the smallest little thing for the actual thing to hold. But he does like a whole full panel. More detail. Just even having to mess with landscape in any way is just such a fucker. Oh. Classic perspective. One character in the foreground, one in the background. You're learning art by looking at George's art. He knows what he's doing. He's a master. Again, with the top-down shots. The bold moves. Look. At an angle. The world is at an angle. At an angle, again, a slant to show the ship going. There's just so much going on here. I can't say it enough, too. They actually did help him here on the colors. These colors are beautiful for, old style, like an acetate where you'd lay them down over the art. take a scan of it. This looks good. It's just that. Bam. Look at that. Bam. Man, this panel. I have remembered this panel because I haven't read this comic like a lot. I've read it a lot. Well, I've read it some, but not a lot. Because I don't go back often. You know, I want to like when I go back, I want it to be for a good reason, or it's like I'm excited to go back to a comic book. And this panel has always stuck with me forever. Just the layout of pieces coming apart on the ship, the detail of that, the cosmic, you know, kind of Kirby crinkle background, the explosion, the tail whip, right? The trajectory of the ship, and then where you place the characters so that they can all have something to say. It's just beautiful. And going back to the way they look, it almost looks kind of eerie how they're having to go through here. And it's all kind of like, it is almost kind of like for a reason, you know? The Fantastic Four are bright and funny and jokey and fun. And, you know, now they're in this, they're taken out of their elements. And boom, surprise, the Eliminator. Oh, man. It's just such a cool panel. That's a great way to introduce a character there. The power. All this debris. I always love this. This kind of actually reminds me of Kirby. It would do something where it would just be a character falling backwards like this. It's kind of Kirby-esque. That's a neat design behind there. So many designs. The Ray, the designs behind her, the Kirby crinkles, the flash hit. There's so much design going on through here. And it's all so clear. Look, he took the thing down. Amazing. And it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. Did he die? I just like it. And you know, one of the other things too about something this big is it's hard to find comparable perspective where it's telling the story you need to tell and getting all the things you need to get into each panel, but also giving this thing an intimidating presence. And it just works. I like it. I like this behind the back shot of Sue. And that was my first comic book growing up, everyone. Fantastic Four, 184. Thanks everyone for watching. Please consider like, sharing, and subscribing, all the stuff. But ultimately, please, George Perez was a master of his craft. Go look up his work. Enjoy it. Celebrate it. It's amazing.